You know how you sometimes wonder what's really going on inside a government office? Like, how is our money actually being spent? Well, it turns out every citizen in India has a kind of superpower to get those answers. It's called the Right to Information Act of 2005. Let's break down exactly how it works.
And you know, the best way to understand this is to look at the law itself. The very first lines of the Act tell you everything you need to know. This isn't just about getting your hands on some documents. It's about the health of our democracy. An informed citizen, well, that's the foundation for making sure everything runs the way it should.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll kick things off with the big why, then define what your rights actually are, get into the step-by-step of how to ask, cover what's off limits, and then what to do if they say no and who's there to back you up.
All right, first things first. Why do we even have this law? Before we jump into the how-to, it's really important to get the philosophy behind it.
See, at its very core, the RTI Act is a bridge. It's built to close that huge information gap that can exist between us, the people, and the government. And transparency, it's not just some fancy word they throw around, it's the engine of accountability. When you can see what's going on, you can ask the right questions and, demand better.
Okay, so let's get into your toolkit. What are the key pieces of this act that give it so much power? Understanding these is absolutely crucial.
First up, who can you ask? The answer is basically any public authority. And this term is incredibly broad. We're not just talking about the big offices in Delhi, we're talking about everything from a central ministry all the way down to your local city corporation, public banks, and even some nonprofits that get a good chunk of their funding from the government.
So, what can you actually ask for? Well, again, the definition of information is massive. It's so much more than just old dusty files. You can ask for emails, internal memos, expert opinions, electronic data. You can even ask for physical samples of materials used to build a public road. It's that comprehensive.
And this brings us to the heart of it all. Section 3 of the Act. It's so simple and so powerful. This isn't a favor the government is doing for you. It's a fundamental right. It belongs to every single citizen of India. Period.
All right, so the theory is great, but how do you actually use this right? Let's get practical. Here is your step-by-step guide to asking a question.
The whole process was designed to be really straightforward. You just write down your question, find the right person, that's the Public Information Officer, or PIO, for that department, pay a tiny fee, usually just 10 rupees, and send it in. And here's the best part. You don't have to give any reason at all for why you want the info.
And once your application is in, boom, the government is officially on the clock. This isn't some request that can be put on the back burner. The law has very strict deadlines, and that's what makes it so effective.
The standard deadline is 30 days. Simple as that. Within 1 month, the PIO has to either give you the information you asked for or explain, with a valid reason, why they can't. But get this. The Act is smart enough to know some things are way more urgent. If your request is about someone's life or liberty, that 30-day window shrinks all the way down to just 48 hours. I mean, that shows you the real life-saving power this law can have. And here's a little something that really holds them accountable. According to the law, if the PIO doesn't get back to you within that 30-day deadline, the information has to be provided to you completely free of cost. No photocopying charges, no fees, nothing. It's a pretty brilliant way to make sure they stick to the timeline.
Now, as powerful as the RTI is, it's not a total free-for-all. The Act strikes a balance between our right to know and the government's need to protect certain sensitive information. So let's talk about those boundaries.
Section 8 of the Act lists out some very specific exemptions, and they're pretty much common sense, right? Things like national security, cabinet discussions before a decision is made, personal privacy, and commercial secrets. But the key thing is, an officer can't just vaguely deny your request. They have to cite one of these specific clauses.
But, and this is a huge but, the Act has a secret weapon. It's called a public interest override. This means that even if a piece of information is technically exempt, it can still be released if showing it to the public serves a greater good than hiding it. It ensures that, in the end, transparency can still win.
So what happens if they do say no? Or worse, what if you just don't hear back at all? Don't worry. A rejection is definitely not the end of the road. The Act has a very clear, built-in system for appeals.
You've got a two-step game plan. First, you appeal to a more senior officer right there in the same department.
If that doesn't work out, or if you're still not satisfied, you can take your case to the next level, the Independent Information Commission. This makes sure you get a fair look from someone outside the department that originally said no.
And that brings us to the final bosses of the RTI world. Who are these ultimate referees? Well, they are the information commissions. These commissions, which exist at both the national and state levels, are the guardians of the RTI Act. They're independent bodies, and they have some serious power. They can order departments to release information, and more importantly, they can penalize officials who aren't following the rules.
So how does the Act make sure people comply? Well, this is where it gets its teeth. If the Commission finds that an officer has delayed a request, denied it without a good reason, or even given false information, they can be personally fined 250 rupees for every single day of delay. And that daily penalty can go all the way up to 25,000 rupees, which, by the way, comes right out of the officer's own salary. On top of that, the Commission can recommend formal disciplinary action. This really gives the system the muscle it needs to back up your right to information.
So there you have it. From its super broad definitions to its strict deadlines and real penalties, the RTI Act is a complete system for transparency. It's an incredibly powerful tool that's been put in the hands of every single citizen. So the only question left, really, is what are you going to ask first?